is Tired, a Marvel fanfiction written on AO3 by XX_Carl_Grimes XX. The link for this fanfiction will be in the description box below, so I encourage you all to go check it out. Shit! I'm gonna be late. Mr. Stark's gonna kill me. Peter thinks to himself in a panic as he runs towards the door that led to the entrance of Stark Industries, or now is known as the Avengers Tower. He'd once again overslept. It wasn't his fault that his alarm ran out of batteries on the one day he needed it the most. Peter had been out until 2:30 a.m. because of a robbery that was going on the other side of town. Parker luck, I suppose. Peter manages to run through the reception and squeeze through the closing elevator door. "Morning, Peter Parker." Jarvis's voice rang out through the elevator. "You appear to be exhausted today. Overslept again?" "Yeah, I know. It's just my alarm didn't go off, which meant I need to catch the next train, which ended up being an hour late because it's New York, and then I had to run from the train station all the way here." Just as Peter finished his story, the elevator doors opened and stepped out. "The Avengers floor? I thought I went to Mr. Stark's lab today." "Morning, Peter, or should I say afternoon." Peter knew the teasing voice made it obvious. He turned his head and there stood Clint. It's the afternoon?" Peter panicked. "It was only 9 when I left." Chill, Peter, I'm just kidding. It's 11:15. "What? Mr. Stark's gonna kill me for sure." "One, I'm not. And two, how many times do I have to tell you to call me Tony?" Tony walked out through the open doors that led into the living room. Peter breathed out a long sigh. Sorry, Tony." Peter couldn't help but send Tony a shy, one-sided smile. He's known Tony for a little over a year now, but still called him Mr. Stark by accident. Tony gestured for Peter to follow him to the sofa. "So, kid, Jarvis told me that Spider-Man helped take down some robbers last night." To this, Peter tilted his head slightly. "Yeah?" Peter asked, slightly confused as to why Tony decided to bring this up. All the Avengers knew that Peter was Spider-Man, but never really commented on why he appeared in the news, unless it was that Peter needed help. "Look, kid, I know that you're helping people. We're just worried about how much sleep you're getting, since you're in school and all," Natasha said, in her usual tone as she appeared in the doorway. Peter pondered this moment. He hasn't really been getting a lot of sleep ever since he became Spider-Man, but he didn't mind. "Yeah, well, I'm fine." He's been doing this for a long time now, so why bring it up? "We know, kid. We just want to help." Tony looked at Peter with an expression that resembled being sincere. Peter's stomach tightened, just a little, as he was used to doing things on his own. Thanks, guys, but I'm fine, really." Peter smiled back. The team had become like a family to him ever since he first stepped into the Avengers Tower. "Alrighty, kid, then we've got something to show you," Tony announced as he stood up and clapped his hands together. Peter followed, but noticed suspicious looks he got from Nat and Clint. Of course, they would know that Peter was lying, as they were trained assassins, after all, but nonetheless, they didn't say anything after he'd left. As he and Tony reached the level of Tony's lab, Peter realized how tired he really was. To make things worse, he had exams coming up, which was a cherry on top of the weird life he was living. As they entered the lab, and Tony started to show Peter his new project, a new suit. Peter sat himself down on the desk that Tony claimed was Peter's own desk, and after a while, he started to show Tony his work on different ideas they both had. Peter decided to work on his web shooters, but after a bit, he got to grow more and more tired. Time skip. Tony looked up from where he was working on the new suit, and his eyes wandered towards Peter, where he was working, or rather meant to be working. Tony smiled slightly as he saw Peter had fallen asleep on his desk. He walked over to Peter, careful not to wake him. He lifted Peter up and carried him to the sofa in his lab and carefully laid the younger teenager down. He knew Peter wasn't getting enough sleep and decided it would be let the tired teen sleep.